Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Plotlines. I'm your host, Connor, and today we're talking about a movie called The Holdovers. I believe it's an Amazon. It's on Amazon. I don't know if it was produced by Amazon, but I've only seen it on Amazon. So it might be made with Amazon or by Amazon or in association with Amazon, but I'm not exactly sure what the relationship is there. But anyways, the holdovers is basically about a teacher who has to look after a few, but then only one student over the Christmas break at what's the right
A
what's the
boarding
word?
school.
A boarding school. Yes, in I think is it in the 70s?
It was 1970 to 71.
Okay, yeah, 1970, it's 71. So, uh, it's sort of in the vein that we discussed, Dead Poet Society. What was the other one?
At the Emperor's Club.
Yes, The Emperor's Club. So we've discussed sort of similar, movies to this, and first I just wanna ask Jeff, how does it sort of compare, in your opinion, to the other 2?
I would put it honestly, like to me, it was somewhat disappointing. But overall, I would say that um, aesthetically, Dead Poet Society is the best. Morally, the the Emperor's Club is the best. And this one was just kind of meh. So it wasn't as bad as Dead Poet Society for the insidiousness that was present there. But I thought this was, an okay movie, but it wasn't one that I was really blown away by or ever coming back with a desire to ever really revisit it.
Yeah. So I would say the 2 things for me that sort of, fall bring negatives to it mainly is just the language. It's a much more vulgar, dialogue, but I think it's because it's made for Amazon, and that therefore it doesn't really follow the same, I guess it was Focus Pictures, but it
Mm.
was let's see, was it released on Amazon? Um, let's see. I don't know. It's kind of hard. It was so it was supposed to have a big release, and then it got pushed into a limited release. I don't know why. Never mind. It's not an Amazon movie, but it feels like kind of an Amazon movie for some reason. Just because I watched it on Amazon, and it's always been on Amazon.
Hmm.
But I don't know. My opinion is just because the vulgarity and and there's just a little bit of nudity um that you see very brief. It's not very long or anything like that. It's similar to sort of the Emperor's Club. You have a little bit of that, but
Yeah.
I find, I actually think the message is a little more wholesome, that or it's a lot more wholesome than Dead Poet Society, but I
Yes.
like the fact that the main character, the main kid
Hmm.
is impacted well, in my opinion, by the teacher. I think there are some negative things about the teacher, of course, but I found the message overall from the teacher to the kid was better than it could have been. Like,
Yeah, I definitely agree.
instead of having to like the kids wanted to protect the teacher in who should have been in trouble in Dead Poet Society,
Mhm.
while this the teacher sacrifices himself for the student in this movie. um
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the reason why I was just a little bit less thrilled with it, I definitely agree with all the points that you're making, but what I wrote down is one or two good moments does not a good movie make. Um, it did have a few redeeming small snippets, but there was so much that it was honestly kind of just a depressing movie to watch.
Yeah, I well, for me, I think it, um, is in some ways captures more the state of like, it's not lying to you. Like, the movie is not trying to hide the situation. Like, the Dead Poets Society basically tries to hide the fact that everything's going downhill, and then it's
Mhm.
kind of abrupt. But in this, it's like everything's gone downhill, and there's just a sort of an internal battle to raise people up, and whether or not it will succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
And I find actually, I find it more depressing, the Emperor's Club more depressing because in some ways the the teacher fails.
Well, that actually it would depend on your definition of failure because you look at first of all, you can uh, it's what's with to me failure is what's within your control. And he actually other than one major mistake, which was um, putting Sedgwick Bell into the Mr. Julius Caesar contest when he didn't deserve it. And he does go and he gets redemption by apologizing to the other guy, and he sends his son to be in Mr. Hundert's class. So, and you look at also all of the students that he did impact, and that was the greater message of the movie, was that it's not about the success or failure of one student that you did your absolute best for. It's your overall impact and how much you exerted yourself for their good.
I guess what I mean is it feels like a failure. So in what like in some ways it feels more bittersweet, or it feels more sorry, it feels more bitter in uh because it seems the relationship between Sedgwick and the teacher it seems to be the main relationship, right?
That's what it seems to be. But again, that's where I think that having that moment of redemption, like the actual key character was the student that got cheated out of it and actually finds it in himself to forgive Mr. Hundert. Mr. Hundert had not, or he had stopped teaching at that point when he went and did the second contest. But this time, or after that, and finding that moment of, reality with that student, I forget his name, and then also the affirmation from all of the other students of the impact that he had had on them, not just for memorizing things, but actually trying to help make them good people. He actually went and started teaching again, and then that's when the cheated student's son went into his class.
Yeah,
So,
to me that just seems like a at least I'm criticizing the way the movie is presented, not necessarily that element of it.
okay,
I think the fact that it's so focused, this movie, The Holdovers, is so focused between, teacher and student and, like, what matters in this movie, makes it a more satisfying ending
well,
than,
I will
um
say yes, it is a very satisfying ending, but that was the only part of it that was satisfying to me.
okay. Yeah, well, I think it sums up the fact that, like, the world is extremely broken. Like, this movie, it's sort of, and it's in the backdrop of Christmas, that which I think is very interesting, sort of, um I mean, in some ways, it's pointing out the flaws in everybody, the fact that the backdrop is Christmas.
That's
Um,
true, and one of the things, like, for me, one of the themes that kept coming back from the holdovers was basically this idea of, almost an anti-Christmas in the sense that usually around Christmas, you're being around more family, and for this, like, it's just a slow stripping away of student or of everyone. Like first you have the entire students and faculty there, then it's just the like 5 or 6 students, the teacher and the cook, and then it's just the one student, the teacher and the cook, and then the cook also takes off. So it's just slowly stripping away more and more until it's just the two of them.
Yeah, and I could have seen the movie also getting. I like that it still kept, even though there's a lot of vulgarity, in some ways it kept more innocence, for like it kept some innocence, if you sort of from what they could have done. Um
Yeah.
there was just like one of the, the kid shares a kiss with somebody with a girl at a Christmas party.
Hmm.
I was a little worried during that, like, where it was gonna go.
Yeah, that's fair. And it may they may have written it differently if it didn't have the cook having an emotional breakdown or an emotional drunken breakdown from
Well, yeah, that was
the
an
death of her son.
interesting, segue, because I don't understand how he got, like, we never see the kid go back upstairs to this party. It's just he and comes and tells, um, uh, the teacher that, what's his last
Mr.
name?
Hunnam,
Hunnam. Yeah, what's with H's? Uh,
I don't know.
Hundert, Hunnam, it's just, um but yeah, the way they, uh I don't know. That does seem like it kind of they might have had alternative versions.
Yeah, but no, I do think that you're right that it could have gotten a lot worse than it did, and like it does deserve to be commended for that, like
Yeah,
the
so
movie as a whole.
like I was a little more skeptical, and then I was happy on how l- little it went into some areas that it could have. I mean, like as I said, the student is kind of vulgar, but even then, the teacher kind of tries to bring him back around. He talks about sort of sort of, I guess, more like classical virtues of, keep, something about, I can't remember what he said about intimacy, but like not
Mm.
sort of I don't know, what did he say? Do you remember?
No, I can't remember specifically.
Well, the point was he was basically trying to get him to talk about sex, basically. Trying to
Yep.
get the teacher to talk about sex, and the teacher was, eh, trying to instill some sort of um I don't know, uh higher understanding of intimacy than just
Hmm.
sort of than the vulgar. And he talks about, I liked how he talked about that, every generation thinks that they've invented debauchery,
Debauchery.
basically. And that debauchery's been the same all throughout time.
Right. But he does that by showing him basically a pornographic piece of pottery.
Yeah, I don't really know what to think about that, because it is like a I mean it is, it's not it's not pornographic in the way we think of porn these days, but maybe
No,
I'm
but it
wrong.
shows very explicitly a man
Yes.
and woman having sex.
Yes, yes, but isn't what's the difference between that, I guess, and I don't know. It's, they went to the field I went to a field trip to the, art, or the museum, basically. That was at the museum.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's, I don't know. Should that
I
be hidden away? I don't know.
no, I that it's open for debate. I wasn't a personal fan of that, but the other thing also is that while he did talk a good game about things like that, he still just straight up lies to his former classmate and then defends it with the student and says, "Yeah, F him. He doesn't deserve to know that."
Yeah, which is actually interesting enough, not in probably not fully, but slightly a Jesuit. Uh, he made somewhat of a Jesuit appeal of why he didn't need to tell that guy the truth.
Yeah, except he was making it purely for personal reasons, not for, you
Sure.
know,
Well, that's the thing.
actual justice.
The teacher mentions many a time that he basically doesn't believe in God.
Yes. constantly.
Well, so it's but, it's a bad, in some sense, obviously that's bad, but I think this movie should get points for honesty, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. Like, the, like, maybe it's just the times, because this came out in 2023, and, Dead Poet Society, I think, is, like, lying to you. Like, it's just
Absolutely.
it's straight, like, but this is sort of straight up, like, it's not really hiding anything from you. It's not covering up anything. It's sort of, in engaging with sort of um, the weaknesses and, flaws of every character.
Right. But I guess to me there isn't an overarching like moral or lesson. This is a good story about broken people coming to understand each other and appreciate each other more throughout difficult circumstances. But it's not really overtly like there isn't a lesson that it's teaching you.
Well,
Whereas like
partially.
Dead Poets Society overtly is doing that and then subverting that at the same time, and Dead Poet or Emperor's Club very clearly has a moral it's trying to teach through it.
Well, I do think that the one part of it is that, uh, sort of like, basically everyone matters. That's one aspect that they're trying to get across, you know, um, and, um, I guess, self-sacrifice, being
Yeah,
being, not just living life for you, I guess.
yeah, yeah, and I am curious if there was if it's just that it was a reality that you could get sent to military school, or if they were specifically trying to be in contradistinction to the Dead Poets Society, where the student who kills himself, it's because he's going to be sent to military school. And so I'm just curious if they were trying to like have a parallel and distinguish themselves from Dead Poets Society, or if it's just that that was a possibility at the time. Like I'm not sure
Yeah.
what the intent of the off or the writers was there.
Yeah, I think they wanted to do something like a Dead Poet Society. At least that's what I'm sort of getting from I'm reading sort of skimming the Wikipedia page.
Okay, because like then yes, it is very much yeah self-sacrifice as opposed to Robin Williams' character being sacrificed, trying to be covered for the students after someone had already killed themselves.
Yeah, but, like, and also, like, I don't think, like, it's unclear that like, I mean, the big deal, the big problem sort of for this parent, the parent, when the parent comes in, is that so the main kid, his parent, it's sort of back and forth on whether and what really happened in the beginning. You're not really sure what the deal with his parents are. First, he says, like, you know, or uh, they think that, or Mr. Hunnam thinks that he has a father. He says that his father's dead.
Hmm.
We later learned that he has a stepfather, basically, um, and that the reason he has to stay there at Christmas is because basically they want his mother and his stepfather want a honeymoon, basically. Which I
Yeah,
gotta say is the most selfish, self-centered thing I've ever heard.
yeah,
Um,
especially then to leave your kid behind at school for 2 weeks.
yeah, that is like the in like, I don't even think, like, in Dead Poet Society the parents are really bad. Like,
No, and we
we're not.
talked about that
Yeah,
quite a bit, and I agree.
but the parents in this, or like the guardians, are terrible people from what we're shown, basically, and it's kind of insane. Like if um if they were taking inspiration from Dead Poet Society, I would say they did what Dead Poet Society almost wanted to do, but better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about this. It was a much bigger deal for him to go to military school because the Vietnam War was still going on.
Wait, what year did the Vietnam War end?
Mid 70s. So for it was definitely still going on, and they didn't know if or when it was going to be over. So if he got sent to military school, he'd then end up in the military and would have to deal with that hellish life of being deployed in Vietnam, most likely. So
Yeah.
it's another like factor for probably why Mr. Hunnam was willing to make that sacrifice just to be and the only reason I bring it up is because it's such a big deal for the cook's son that died in Vietnam.
Yeah, but you also back to let's focus more on the parents for right now, and we'll get
Yes,
to
yes.
that
Yeah.
more. But sort of it's revealed eventually that his father is in a psychiatric institute
Mhm,
because he's kind of gone bonkers. Which we're not really sure. It's hard to say what really happened there.
mhm.
But then the main character's mom divorced her husband, put him in a psychiatric facility, and now has gotten remarried, which I gotta say is really despicable way of living. Um,
Absolutely.
abandoning your spouse. It's kind of like have you ever seen the movie Regarding Henry?
No.
Oh, well, we might have to watch that and talk about that. Another one, but it has a similar. There's a similar element of a parent having to go into medical place, has to leave his
Yeah.
family because of something that happens. It's like to me it would be disgusting to just like then divorce that spouse and then basically and I always hate a stepfather or stepmother who basically takes control or basically urges the real parent to do certain things in order to what they think is best for the child. I don't know, I just have a visceral hatred for that. I think think about all the evil stepmothers and stuff like that that are in fairy tales. I think there's something inherently evil about what the idea of stepmothers, stepfathers, and stuff like that. Obviously there's some good versions of that, but it's a very it's a trope for them to be bad.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's
And
really just as I mean, it's symbolic of the fact that we know that it's wrong. Whether or not I mean, not all the situations it's wrong, but it's not supposed to be like this. It's supposed to
yeah,
be a mother and father biologically and their biological children.
right. And one of the things that we can deduce from this is that Tully, the student, is not screwed up just because of this, because he's been kicked out of other schools before. Like he had a bad mother, period, growing up that
Sure.
was shipping him off to schools, not actually taking care of him. Who knows how the father was pre insanity,
Well,
but
he seemed to the way he sort of well, it seems like 8 years ago or something? I'm thinking it was 8 years ago, but I don't know where I'm getting that. Is it like 8 years
I
ago when that
I'm
happened?
not sure. All I know is that it was just the previous summer that his mom had gotten remarried.
Okay. But it feels like with the way he remembers his father, at least, he remembers his father fondly.
Yeah.
So I don't know, whether or not that means he was a good father. I don't know. But the big thing that happens is that Hunnam brings Tully for Christmas to see his father.
Yeah.
And he gets in,
Well,
and the teacher.
he doesn't purposefully because he thinks he's dead.
Well, no, we're not really given exactly understanding of what that conversation changes to, because Tully tries to escape to go see his father, but Hunnam stops him, and then he's like, "I want to go see my father," and he's like, "Well, if you said that, we could have gone. We can go to a cemetery or whatever," because he thinks he's dead, and then he reveals that he's not dead. But we don't. But then it cuts. So
Right.
to me, it implies that they had a conversation about where they're going.
It's possible. But either way, what I'm mainly saying is that he wasn't intending to do that when they went to Boston.
That's true.
Like
But it seems
Tully
like
was planning on sneaking away the entire time.
he was on board at eventually on going to see
Yeah,
the father, and, like, he sort of embellishes it, at least when he talks to the mother, and, when he's called in for questioning, basically. He embellishes his part in it. Um
right. And maybe that also is why they had that conversation about lying, because he basically again takes that attitude of F them, they don't deserve the truth.
I like to think that he didn't really lie at all, because we don't really know what happened in that conversation.
Well, he said that he in the when he had the meeting with the principal and the parents, he said that he took him to Boston to see his dad, which isn't true.
I thought he just said that he encouraged him to go see his father, and I didn't think I didn't think he said specifically that that was his whole plan. But I could be.
I
Let me
yeah, I can't
let
remember
me
specifically.
let me double check. Um, let's see. I do like, because he really is trying to, like, he sees that the kid has something good in him, and that he knows that he calls him brilliant. I don't know, but very smart. Like, he may not
Mhm.
be he's not sure if he's brilliant, but he is very smart.
Yeah,
Um but like the mother is all about, like, I have to move on. Like, cuz the dad now wanted to come home.
yeah,
Like, it's just it's frustrating for her, cuz yeah, cuz all she wanted what she wants. Or what's
yeah,
good, what feels good for her. She's just it's the most insufferable person.
yeah. And she's only on the screen for less than 2 minutes.
I know, but it's just like they really don't make the I appreciate that they actually showed that she was a psychotic woman,
Yeah,
like, opposed to, I guess the thing that he lies is he says, "It was my idea. It was not
right.
his idea." That
That
is a lie. Um, he didn't trick me or slip the leash. That's kinda true. I mean, he didn't trick him or, slip the leash.
well,
Um,
he did trick him, but then he caught up.
well, I'm saying it's one thing to try to, it's like, sort of attempted. He attempted to trick him, and he
Gotcha.
failed.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
didn't.
because he didn't slip the leash. That's true.
Yeah, he did. That, um, he said, "I convinced him to do so." So I'm saying I don't know if we don't see if, like, he gives him, like, if he's sort of, "Yes, let's do it." Like, we don't see the rest of that conversation. So that's sort of, to me, that's up in the air. Um,
Yeah,
I like how he said, "You couldn't be reached." It's like, which is true. Couldn't be reached. They weren't like, they were never, they weren't interested in being there for their son, even in, like, on a phone call basis.
right. And it kept him from being able to take a plane to or a helicopter to go and stay at some posh cabin in the snow and
Yeah, I know, they
see.
they could have shipped him away and, avoided all of this, but instead they were so consumed with their, uh, fake honeymoon, basically.
Yeah. I am also curious, like, they didn't explicitly state it, but they showed, I think that it was the kid who had refused to cut his hair when, then his dad's, like, relented and flew everyone out to their place. When he came back, he had short hair.
Oh, did he? Let me
Yeah,
see find that.
that was one of the things at the very end.
That's funny, I didn't notice that. Let's
Uh,
see.
I think it might have even been showing him buzzing his hair.
Let me see. What did you think about it? I thought it was interesting the cook, like that was an element that, hasn't been any in any of the other movies, like sort of an inclusion of sort of other members of the faculty. I
Yeah.
she's sort of
Well, she was a very necessary person for the sake of humanizing Hunnam. Like, even after she had her emotional breakdown at the party, and then Hunnam goes off on Tully and tells him how much he wishes he didn't have to watch him. She tears Hunnam a new one. Like, you don't tell a kid who's been abandoned that you don't want them.
yeah, she's sort of in some ways part of the heart of the whole thing. She she
Absolutely.
she, she drives Hunnam to take a more personal attention to the kid, because
Yeah.
he's very, I like that he calls all the kids Philistines, sort of in the like he recognizes the problem with with the students.
Mhm.
They're not really taking to history. They're not really looking at what they're doing with any real understanding. They don't care basically, and they're all
Mhm.
rich. Like that's the thing, is pretty much all of them are rich, and they've all have the best sort of life that they can have at the moment than anyone else. And it's just um yeah, it's, I don't know, it's kind of like they have such a good life that they're wasting it basically.
Yeah.
And he keeps reminding them basically, at least, even but he needs a little more heart. He's not acting like a person basically, and that
Right. Well, he has a reason to be against them from his own past because he he was plagiarized by another student, but then he got blamed because that student was so well connected. So
that's
he
true.
doesn't have any sympathy for those types of students. And we also see that with him refusing to not fail one of the like best connected students, and that kid wasn't able to go to the Ivy League because of it.
Which is similar to in some ways similar to um Emperor's Club, because the kid is the son of a senator.
Yep, and the principal tells him like, don't call him out for the cheating in front of everyone.
Yeah, it seems like it's a combination of all of the 2 movies that we watched previously, almost it seems like the writers and director had totally watched the 2 movies we watched.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just curious. When was um the Emperor's
Emperor's
Club set?
it's like oh, it was set in, like, the '80s, I think, I think.
According to Wikipedia, early 1970s.
Oh, okay, never mind, the same time then.
Yeah. Um,
This seems
uh,
older, though. This feels older, I don't know why. Is it may
well, that's what I was gonna say is like part of this is the aesthetics of the 1970s. I think they absolutely nailed what movies looked and felt like at
what
that time. Because
movies looked like? Not like
yeah, well, I'm just like what I thought about and connected it with in my mind was the first Rocky movie. where like there are people drinking wine, sitting or standing around um, trash can that's on fire so that they can keep warm, and like doing doo wop as Rocky walks past. Like it had a very like dingy, grungy type of feel. Like just watching that this last year. So like comparing that, I felt like just the feel, the aesthetics of like them going to the bars and everything just really it felt like it was at the exact same time as Rocky.
Yeah, but the contrast between that and the school is very
Mhm.
interesting because it's very it's very classical, the school is.
It is, but it just felt so empty, which by that point,
Oh.
those schools, like, at least intellectually, were empty.
Well, all schools emptied. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I don't know. I think it's because I think it's the Zoomer blues, uh, that, makes me like this movie probably a lot more than you do.
I have not heard that term before.
Oh, no, I made it up.
Okay.
I
Um,
just mean the real, like, the real melancholy of the Zoomer, like, the everything's sort of decaying around you.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's fair. That's very much just that's not my personal cup of tea.
Yeah. Well, in some ways, I don't, like, I don't know if I would've, like, if you told me it was a depressing movie, I don't know if I would've watched it, if that makes sense. If anybody had
Yeah.
told me it was a depressing movie, I picked the movie, but I hadn't watched it before. So,
Right. It was recommended to us in the comments
oh,
from our
yes,
previous discussions on those two movies.
yes, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't know why. I love just the ending where, he takes a responsibility, which, to be fair, as the adult, he it really was his responsibility. Even if
Yeah.
he sort of, embellished a little bit his part in it, it was his responsibility in the end anyways.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess it's also just the first time you see him, like after he's slowly warmed up to this one student, like he didn't care about the impact on his students other than like making sure they made their grades before it seemed. He was just doing his job.
Well,
And then he
I think he
actually
had
did care at the end.
I think it's not that he didn't care, it's that he didn't think that get he could get anything across to them. He
That's
was
fair.
oh, what's the word? What is it when sort of, just he was negative.
Yeah.
He was thinking negative. He was hopeless. He thought it was hopeless.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't think he wasn't trying, it's just that his attitude towards it was sort of, it's not gonna work.
Well, I think that was his attitude for every relationship in life.
Yeah, I love how he insults the, headmaster as he leaves, because the headmaster, it's clear that
Y-
all he cares about is sort of, keep money for the money and, prestige.
Yeah.
And he had gone to the school, and Mr. Hunnam had taught him, and he was, and he insults him about how he's the same, same as he was back then,
Yeah.
like, and he gets fired, and it seems like he sacrifices himself so the kid doesn't go to military school,
Yeah.
and he's going to be fine. It seems he might end up writing some books or something like that, travel and stuff like that, because he's been working there forever. He must have savings, and he's been living off of that school, like, it's a school that you live at,
Yeah.
and
That's
he
true.
supposedly he doesn't go very often into town. Like, the man couldn't possibly have, like, spent a lot of money.
That's true.
He
Uh,
probably had a lot of savings.
yeah. And it's definitely implied that there's now the hope for that with the gift he got from the cook. But
Oh yeah.
um, one of my favorite moments though was after he came out from being fired, and he actually tells Tully which of his eyes is the right one to look at
Oh yeah.
because
I didn't even I didn't notice that that was like I for most of the movie I didn't realize that his eyes
yeah, the
were like
lazy
that.
eye.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't real because when he was talking about which one to look at, I was like, wait, what is he talking about?
I'd been I, it was just barely enough that it kind of unsettled me though, and I didn't notice it until they started talking about it. It was just part of the general ambiance of kind of nastiness of Mr. Hunnam. Like also having his condition where his sweat smells like fish, like
Oh yeah, poor yeah,
always sweating.
that was rough.
Yeah, like they really made him a sad sack.
But they also made him very like somebody you could really sympathize with.
Eventually, yes.
Well, I could sympathize with him at the beginning because I have a similar opinion of how um students don't really care about their subjects.
That's completely fair, and you have more room to be able to speak into that than I do.
And it's just like but also like the the elite schools, just the elite in general, kids of the elite, they just don't really have like generally speaking, they don't really have any real like purpose for life. They just kind of do what they want. They just get their way, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that about it's not all, elite people, it's not all wealthy people, but that's sort of the culture. And I believe that was the part of the cult. I think that was the culture of the 70s too, 80s, 90s. I mean, I don't know if it will change anytime soon, but it's that's generally the attitude because you have everything you could possibly want and there's no noblesse oblige.
Hmm.
You have no responsibilities for others to do, which is why I think the whole sacrifice part is actually more important. Like it gets across that you're not I mean, I didn't doesn't he say something in Latin that basically says your life isn't just for you or something like that?
It was something along those lines. I don't remember the specific quote though.
It was like Cicero or something.
Yeah.
It was in the very beginning when because
Hmm.
Mr. Hunnam wasn't supposed to be the one who was staying back.
Yep.
That's the thing is even the other teacher made up a reason to get out of being, taking care of the holdovers basically.
Yep.
And Mr. Hunnam, he doesn't make an excuse or anything like that. I mean, he's not very happy about it, but he does it.
Well, he also knows he's being punished.
Yeah, for flunking a senator's son.
Yeah.
But I'm saying he accepts it. He's sort
Hmm.
of um well, I guess the point is accepts his punishment in the beginning of the movie and then he doesn't accept it in the end. Like I mean, he's kind of being punished. Um well, I guess he won't let someone else get punishment.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
For ourselves wait, hold it is. For not for ourselves alone are we born. That was what he says in the very beginning. So I mean, I feel like he has all the like the virtues in the back of his head. The virtues without faith. That's the thing is he has virtues without faith.
All right. Well, I'd say he has the like intellectual virtues where he
Yes.
understands, but then, he's certainly not a temperate man.
Yes, you're right. He's what I mean is virtues in the sense of he knows them.
Yes. Yeah.
He knows what he should be. And like a lot of people fall short and like all of us fall short.
Yeah.
So you could argue he falls short more than he should.
Right. And one of the things I'm just uh recalling is the first instance of him basically being uh, okay with lying is when Tully basically saves his butt after he breaks his arm because and then he covers it up
Yeah. Which
because
I
if
yeah.
they found out about it at the school, then Hunnam was going to be fired, and Tully was also probably going to military school.
Well, it didn't make sense that he would get fired. That he told him to stop,
Right, but he still got hurt.
I guess.
I I don't know if like
I
he
don't
might or might not have been right about that, but that's at least what he said
yeah,
was that he was going to get
I just
fired.
don't understand the logic of that. What was expected of him?
No, I agree. I'm just saying for the internal logic of the movie, he thought he would be fired for it.
Maybe he just thinks because maybe the guy just wants to get rid of him for any reason.
Yeah,
Like
quite possibly
he
the
couldn't he
principal.
yeah, the principal couldn't fire him because he failed the student because that was because if it got out that that's why he was being fired, like that's a terrible reason to fire a teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. But
But you
also, I'm curious. He had to know as the principal that he didn't have a college degree.
yeah, he probably yeah, I don't know. He must have. I mean, in the sense of he must have known because he must be being paid less
Yeah,
and he's an adjunct like teacher or whatever it was.
yeah,
So maybe he just doesn't maybe he doesn't want the school like maybe he knows but he doesn't want the school to be looked bad upon
mm,
because if he
that's
fired
fair.
him for that that might then people might question why he got fired for that and then people might look in and then they'd be upset even more at the school.
Yeah, that tracks.
Like he has to get rid of him, he has to fire him for something that makes enough sense to other people that he should be fired,
Yeah,
but also um keep the school's
prestige.
prestige, yeah. So, I don't know. Just so you're not going to want to watch this ever again. Is that what you're saying?
Probably not. And again, it's more. It's for two reasons for me. That first, it. I'm not saying that overall the movie is, but the characters in it are just very depressing. Like you have as the main teacher an alcoholic, fish smelling, lazy eyed person that has no family around. And then a woman whose son was just killed and whose husband had died. And then a student whose family has abandoned him. And you get like one nice small payoff at the end. It is a good scene, but it's just again, I don't think that one or two good moments makes it a good movie. So that is very. It's just hard for me to watch something like that. Um, and then the other thing is just that 70s aesthetic grunginess, dinginess. It's just hard for me to watch. That's why although Rocky is a masterpiece, I don't like it nearly as much as Rocky 3 because Rocky 3 doesn't feel that way.
Okay. Yeah. Have I at all warmed you up in this conversation more to it
A
or
little bit, but I think that you very much make good points, but to me it's still like I would personally I would classify this as a mediocre movie with a very good ending.
yeah, okay. Cuz I didn't like um uh um I
Emperor's
think
Club.
I didn't like Umber's Club as much as you did.
Oh, and I fully understand and respect that.
What was my reasoning? Do you remember at all why I didn't like it more? Cuz I just I,
Well, I know that it would really especially with you not being prepared for that brief showing of nudity.
Oh, no,
on
no,
the magazine.
that's not why I didn't like it. No, well, to be fair, I will say that the skinny dipping thing, not that you see anything, but
Yeah,
I thought the students were even more, degenerate, or like that, like, at least the main kid was more degenerate than, like, the reason it's oddly enough, like, you don't get that as much with, this movie. They're not
mhm,
actually that degenerate. Like,
right,
they're not they're messed up, but they're not specifically trying to be more degenerate.
yeah.
And then in, what was it? What's the other movie? Uh,
Dead Poet
yeah,
Society.
Dead Poet Society, they don't even like, the sad thing about that movie is that they're they also don't go too overboard with degeneracy either. But it's a more innocent time, somewhat, I would say, so that that poison is even sneakier
Yeah,
in that movie, which I feel like there's a lot of poison, like, that's happened to society in this movie, in The Holdovers, but I don't feel like they're anyone specifically inserting the poison. Like,
yeah.
they all seem like
They've drank
im
the poison.
yeah, they've imbibed it, but they're not like they're not the creators of the poison. And
Right.
they're even in the end, I would say they've sort of, spit out some of the poison. They've sort of cured some of the poison. Not much, but they've sort of taken steps to remove that poison,
Yeah.
which is way more hopeful than both Dead Poet Society and, I mean, it's, I guess, the other movie is, The Emperor's Club is hopeful for most people, but it's like there's not a comeback. Nobody really has a comeback. Um,
I
the people that are good kind of stay good, and the people that are bad stay bad, pretty much.
well, I guess again, the to me the focal point is him lying and then finding redemption later with the student that he lied to.
Yeah, no, I
But
get that. I get that. I totally understand that. I'm just saying that he's never really a bad guy.
right.
He just makes mistakes.
Right, but at the same way, like the student who is a douche in the beginning ends up as a douche at the end.
In which one?
In the holdovers, that he ends up, crazy sunburnt from the skiing.
Oh, yeah, but I don't see that him as the main character. He is a side character to the story, and, like, when they send them away, to me, that's them saying this kid is not, the not the focal point.
Right. I think it's just one that we're gonna have to
Yeah.
agree to disagree on
Yeah, sure.
for the holdovers and Emperor's Club.
Yeah, though, I do see the good parts of Emperor's Club. It I think my big problem with that movie is more that the time skip.
Yeah,
I think that was just sort of unnecessary. Like, they could have had a resolution at the end of the year or whatever.
yeah, that's true.
Like, too much time passes. Like, that would be for a sequel movie, in my opinion.
Hmm.
If you're gonna do a sequel movie, then you can have them aged. But in the same movie, and then you're not even like, I feel like when you're watching a movie, for the most part, you expect the same actors to be, like, in the same scene when, like, when somebody apologizes to somebody else, right? Because that actor was not the one that was, hurt.
Right.
That was a completely different person, basically, to us, because it's been like 20 years or whatever, or 30 years,
Yeah.
and such a big change. You want that kid that you saw previously that got hurt, you want him to, um get apologized to. Basically, he took too long. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. To apologize. That was
Yeah,
a that was a that was slightly unsatisfying. I guess.
yeah, that's fair enough.
Anyways, I mean, it's not like I'd say this movie is like amazing or anything like that. I just felt like it was surprising to me that it was a decent movie given that it came out in 2023.
Yeah, that's a completely fair point.
Like there wasn't any like real like extra level debauchery or extra level social commentary.
No, it was really just the one fleeting scene and then the crass language.
Like it could have been, other than the crash language, it could have been made in the 90s
Yeah,
or even the 80s basically.
yeah,
It, that was kind of that's kind of strange to me that they, almost that they didn't have something so more poisonous, but so I'm thankful for that.
yeah.
Well, anyways, let's wrap up there. Thanks for watching this movie with me, and even though we disagree a little bit, I appreciate your opinions, and I'm just this will probably come out either probably Christmas Eve. For all of you watching, have a Merry Christmas, and well, if anything, this movie says uh take care of your family and spend time with them because there are people who don't have that. And try and, if there's somebody that that needs family or needs somebody's attention on Christmas, try to find time to do that to give them that attention. So, thank you everyone. God bless.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.